How's it going, everyone? My name is Goober, and I am from factionfiles.com. This is going to be a very quick video today. It's just kind of a crash course on the core essentials of the upgraded version of rafalh's vmesh tool. This is the tool that used to be named V3D tool, is now called vmesh, and it now supports skeletal animation. Before I go any further, I will just say this skeletal animation feature is still experimental at this stage, so that means you may run into bugs, things may not work exactly as you expect them to. Just kind of go into it expecting that. Definitely report any bugs if you happen to find them, but just kind of lay the expectation it is still experimental, so you may run into some issues. I will also lay the expectation right out of the gate that I am by no means a Blender expert. There may be, / probably are, more efficient ways to do most of what I'm going to show you in Blender. So yeah, no expert, work with what I have. So to start, I'm just going to clear my scene. I'm going to go ahead and import from a directory that I just happen to know off the top of my head, this mesh right here. Now, this is the mesh that I extracted from the core game. This is the minor.v3c mesh that I extracted from the core game with the v3m converter tool that you can get on our Discord. The link is below. I'm going to then hit import. Now, unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have the ability to import skeletal meshes from the game and maintain their rig, their skeleton. So we are going to need to remake a skeleton. This is going to mean that our skeletal meshes are going to be incompatible with the stock game's animations. That is a limitation at the moment. Hopefully that won't be the case in the future, but at the moment it is. So we're going to need to make our own custom rig. So I'm going to start just by removing these prop flags. We only need the highest LOD level, so I'm going to remove the other LOD levels. A couple things to do really quickly to set up our mesh so that we're ready to start rigging it. First off, go to Object Properties, change mode to XYZ, Control A, apply all transforms. You're definitely going to want to do that. You will run into issues later if you do not. Secondly, I'm going to go to Edit mode here, so make sure our vertex mode is selected. Press A to select all. Vertex, merge vertices by distance. It's going to remove 341 vertices and weld all of my seams together. That will ensure that we are going to have clean skeletal animation and mesh deformation later. Now, we are set to start building our rig. So, to start building our rig, I'm going to go up here to Add. I'm going to add an armature. That's going to add this huge bone right here in the middle of the entity. First thing I'm going to do is come over here to Object Data. It's a little green stick man here. Expand out Viewport Display. Hit In Front. This is going to display my skeleton over. It's going to layer my skeleton over my mesh. Just make it a bit easier to work with. Now, as I said, I am a novice when it comes to Blender, so I cannot say that this is the absolute correct way to do this. It's the way that has worked for me, so I'm going to demonstrate it using this, but I'm sure there are people out there. I'm 100% sure that there are people out there who know Blender a lot better than I do, so if they tell you to rig something in a different way, you should probably go with them. Just keep in mind that the V3C format for Red Faction does have a limit of 50 bones, so you cannot go over that number. So I'm going to go to Edit mode here with my armature selected. I am going to drag this down here to around about the waist there. I'm going to extrude this up. That is going to be our character's spine. I extrude it up again to make his neck. Extrude it up again to make his head. I'm going to tweak these a little bit just to better align them with the dimensions of our mesh. Now we're going to work on the arms. So I'm going to move this out here. There is actually a very streamlined way to do arms for skeletal meshes, so I'm going to show you that as well. Expanding this out over here, look at our bones. For the most part, it doesn't actually matter what your bones are named for purposes of Red Faction anyway, but Blender will make your life a lot easier if you learn some naming conventions for these. So this is our upper arm on the right hand side, Parker's right hand side. So I'm going to name this upper arm dot R, the dot R being the important part there. Then I'm going to name the other one upper arm dot L for right and left. I'm going to go up to options, turn on X-axis mirror. This is going to basically mirror, as you can see there, any changes that I make on one side, it's going to make on the other side. So I'm going to drag this over to round about his elbow, again to his wrist. You may want to make a more complicated rig for your specific use case when you're doing this. Again, this is just a demonstration, so I'm going to have a very simple rig. Just keep in mind that 50 bone limit that I mentioned before. If you have more than that, your mesh is not going to convert properly because you're beyond the limits of the format. So definitely stay below the limit of 50. And so the arms are done. We will go ahead and do the legs now. Do the same kind of thing that I did for the arms. This is his right side, so I'm going to do upper leg R, and the other one, upper leg L. There we go. And just kind of line this up mostly with his knee. This here is going to be his ankle. Oh, that's a bit off. And then we will do his foot. This is kind of like the most basic that a rig can get, but it's going to be plenty for our purposes. So our rig is now, for all intents and purposes, done. Now, there may be an easier way to do what I'm about to show you. I just don't know it, but this has worked for me, so I'll show it to you. Feel free to use it, or if you know another way to do automatic weighting, feel free to do that. If you want to go through and do manual vertex weighting for your bones, you can also feel free to do that, though that is going to take you a lot longer. So I would definitely recommend starting with automatic weighting and then tweaking it later if you don't like the way that the automatic weighting weighted your vertices to the bones. So I'm going to select my mesh, shift select my armature, press Control P, set parent to with automatic weights. That did all of my automatic weighting. And you can see if I select my armature here, go into edit mode. Oops, I'm in pose mode actually. You can see if I move this, it moves the mesh that corresponds to the bones, which is exactly what we want. Now, we do have an issue, though, because I have just set the parent of my mesh to the armature. vmesh does require that your character mesh, the actual mesh for your skeletal animation, be at the root of your scene. So to do that, I'm going to click Parker here, my mesh. I'm going to shift drag to scene collection. This is going to break the association with my armature, though. So to fix that, have my mesh selected, come here to modifiers, add modifier, armature, hit this little eyedropper thing, select my armature. Now I have reattached my mesh to my armature. So now our rigging and weighting is done. You can absolutely feel free to go through and tweak the vertex weighting, as I said, if you want it to be, a bit more presentable, a bit easier to animate, look a bit nicer, but this is just a demonstration, not going to worry about that. So to do an animation, we're just going to do one very quick, simple animation just to kind of show how it works. I'm going to go to the animation tab here. I'd just like to expand this out. I don't know why it hides that. Now, at the very, very, very basic level, animations for skeletal meshes in Red Faction use keyframes. Do not try to use scaling keyframes. Your mileage may vary if you try to do that. I don't think the game supports them. At least it doesn't use them. But rotations and translations, so moving and rotating, should work without an issue. So I'm going to start off here by going into pose mode. We're just going to do an incredibly simple animation here. So I'm going to select all of these here. I'm going to come down here into the timeline and I'm going to insert. Hang on, what's going on here? Insert. Oh, there we go. What? I have no idea why that's not working. Anyway, like I said, I am a Blender novice, so we will go back to the original way that I had planned on doing this, which there's probably a better way to do this. Like I said, I am very much a novice at Blender. Anyway, so I'm just going to rotate this up, go to this rotate thing here, hit 0. That is going to, because I hit the auto key, the record button down here, that's going to make a key for this bone, a rotation key, at the start here, at frame 1 of my timeline. And the rotation is going to be 0. So this is my rest pose, my T pose. I'm going to go to 10. I'm going to rotate this arm up. And because I have auto key on, it's going to make a key. Then I'm going to select this first key at 0. I'm going to duplicate it and put the duplicate at 20. Now what this is going to do is going to make it so that, as you can see, as I go from 0 to 10, the arm goes up, and as I go over to 20, it comes back down. This is about as simple of an animation as you are going to get, and Parker's going to look really, really, really dumb doing it, but that's perfectly fine. It is plenty to show the process. So, now that we have our incredibly basic animation done that you would never import into a game under normal circumstances, and our rig, we are ready to export our mesh and put it through vmesh. I'm going to go up to File, Export, GLTF. Again, paste in my directory. This is the same process, or roughly the same process anyway, as the V3D tool for static meshes, if you're familiar with that. GLTF embedded. I'm going to name my mesh minor. I'm going to come here to my folder, and as you can see, I have minor.gltf. This file includes both the skeletal mesh and any animations that I have defined. In this case, obviously, is my only animation of Parker raising his arm up. So, same process as for static meshes. I'm just going to open a command prompt, go to vmesh, run minor.gltf through vmesh. The output here at the end converted successfully. As long as you see that, you should be good. It found one top level mesh node. This is what I was talking about before. It has to be at the root for it to work properly. It gives me a bunch of texture errors. That's because I didn't fix my textures after I imported the mesh, but that was beyond the scope of this. And processing animation, armature action. I didn't give my animation a name in Blender, so that's why this showed up. But if you did, that's what it would show up instead. Actually, hang on. I am just realizing that I'm forgetting something. So I'm going to go back and do that very, very quickly because I need to set up the eye where the camera is going to show when you spawn with this character. That is my bad. I totally forgot that. So I'm going to select my mesh here, hit Add Empty Plane Axes. Actually, I'm going to use an arrow instead because it'll be easier to see. Empty single arrow. Move this up here, roughly where the character's eyes are going to be. Rotate it 90 degrees so the character is looking out. I need to name this eye, and I need to make it a child of my mesh. So I'm going to drag and drop it, holding Shift into Parker. Now my eye is set up properly, so I'm just going to re-export that. Minor.gltf, overwrite the last one. And I already closed that. Just run that one more time. There you go. So our mesh is good to go now. It made empty. Oh, I think I made that by accident. Whatever. I'll just leave that. Anyway, so by far the easiest way to test your custom mesh is going to be by replacing the default player character model. Minor is the name of that. That's why I named this Minor. We do need to change the idle animation though, because otherwise we're not going to see our new animation. We're going to see a stock animation that's going to look hilariously broken on our new mesh. So I'm just going to totally not look at the text file that I have open on my other monitor to get the file name that we need. This is the idle animation for the minor character model, for the player character, or for the player character of Parker, his model. This is the idle animation that he plays when he's standing up holding a pistol. So we're just going to name our RFA file that. These two files here should be all we need. Open up VPP Builder, drag the two of these files in. I'm going to hit save. I already have this file saved in my user maps multi folder, but obviously you need to save it in your user maps multi folder. Now we are good to test. Open up Dash Faction. Just gonna let the video catch up to my game. There we go. Extras, Glass House. As you can see, my eye height is roughly the same height as the normal player. It could be a little off because I didn't measure, but anyway, it should be the height of the eye of the character model. If I go to camera 2 and look at my character in third person, as you can see here, we have Parker doing a really stupid motion. This means our animation is working properly. So there you go. That is how you import those. Now I can do something really funny if I jump. There you go. Now it's trying to play a default animation on the new mesh and obviously not working properly. But custom animations made specifically for this mesh work without an issue. I am really excited about the potential that comes with this tool, and I can't wait to see what everybody makes. Again, this was just a very bare bones crash course. There's a lot more that can be done with this. There's a huge amount of potential for this tool, and we've only really scratched the surface. It literally just came out today in experimental state. So anyway, I'll end the video there. I look really forward to everything everybody makes. Catch you later.